Hello, this is Kirill from forexboat.com and welcome back to the course on setting up your virtual private server for reliable Forex trading. In the previous tutorial, we discussed the Windows Auto Login tool, which allowed us to teach the Windows installed on our VPS how to re-log into itself in case there is a system reboot. And today we're going to be talking about the Rebootlog tool. So the Rebootlog tool is a simple tool which allows us to record any instances of reboots so that we can later audit these journals and find out what was actually happening on our server when we weren't there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to proceed straight to the VPS and we're going to implement this tool. And if you can follow me step by step, that would be great. I'll just remind you that all of these tools that we're discussing, they're located on www.forexboat.com/VPS setup, all one word. They're available for your download absolutely free because they're included as part of this course. So now we're going to go to our virtual private server. And once we're on the virtual private server, what we're going to do is something similar to previous time. We're going to create a text file. So we're going to go right click on the desktop, new text document. And just a reminder that if you do not see the .txt extension, then please revisit the previous tutorial where I explain how to make it visible, because we will need to be able to control these extensions of our files. Now we're going to go back to the instruction, and for the reboot log tool, what it says here is that you need to create a text document on your VPS desktop named rebootlog.cmd.txt. So we're just going to copy that name and we're going to paste it into our file here. So I'm just gonna click that, paste, there we go. So that's done. Now if we open the file, then in the instruction manual we'll find the code that we need to copy. So all you need to do on this website is you just click copy, press Ctrl+C. So once that's copied, we're going to save and close the file. So we're going to click here to close it and save the file. And now we're going to change the name of the file. We're going to remove the txt part, so all that's left is cmd. I'm just going to expand this now. As you can see, we're getting a warning, yes, and right away the file icon has changed. Now this is a command file. It's an executable file and it will actually perform certain action if you run it. So to demonstrate what action is performed, I'm going to open my computer and we're going to go to disk C. We're using disk C because all computers by default have disk C, and that is the safest choice. So once I run the tool, what will happen is you'll see another text document appear here, and that text document is going to contain some information. So let's go ahead and run it. And as you can see, we now have a text document called rebootlog.txt. If we open the document, then you will notice that it has 4 lines. Like after the dashed line, it says last reboot at Tuesday, 9th of September 2014 at 12:29 p.m. Now if we look at the time at the bottom of the screen, you'll see that it is exactly 12:29 p.m. right now. And what that means is that this file, every time it's run, rebootlog.cmd, it adds a line into this document saying there was a reboot at this particular time. So we'll run it again and you'll see that another line has been added to the rebootlog.txt. Last reboot at 12:30 p.m. So even though there was no reboot, but we ran the file, it's recording this message. So what we want to do now is we want to put this file in a place where it will only be run when there is an actual reboot. And that way we'll be able to keep track of our reboots. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this rebootlog.txt file because it's got that test information we just put in there. And there is a folder in Windows which gets executed, or all the files in this folder get executed every time the system starts. To find this folder, you need to click Start. You need to go to All Programs, and here there's a folder called Startup. So we need to open this folder, right click and click Open. As you can see, I've already put the file here, so I'll just delete that. So, and I'll do that again. So start, all programs, start up. And what we want to do is now we want to copy our file, drag it into startup. And there you go. Now the file will be run every time the system is reboot. And we can easily check that. So we don't have the file here now. What we're going to do now is we're going to close our MetaTrader terminal and we're going to reboot the system. The easiest way to reboot the system, and this is available on most VPS servers, is to click Start, Shut Down, and then here choose Restart, and you have to put in a comment. It won't let you press OK unless you put in a comment, and this is a test reboot. And just click OK, and your system should reboot now. And while it's rebooting, I'll explain what's going to happen. Because in the previous tutorial we set up the Windows auto login tool, the system will automatically log into Windows, which is great. Once the computer, the virtual processor has been rebooted, Windows will automatically log into itself. And then the reboot log tool will be executed because it's contained within the startup folder. And that means that this text that we saw will be created in that file on drive C, and it will contain the exact time at which it was created. So then when we log on to the server at a later point in time, we will see that the server had been rebooted before we logged on. So that's what's going to happen. And while it's rebooting, we'll give it some time. I'll just show you another way that you can reboot your servers, and that is through your client area on your service provider or virtual private server provider. So if you go into your client area, there should be a section which is responsible for this particular machine and what's going on with the machine right now. On this page, you can usually control your server, and so if you find that you cannot reboot it from the Windows system like we did just now, then there's some controls here, and you can reboot the virtual machine, or don't click rebuild, because that will destroy everything that you have on the machine. The main controls that you're interested in is reboot or shut down virtual machine, maybe reset password if you forgot it, but that's basically it. So you can actually reboot it from your control center. And I've also tested it. Here you can see that at 2:48 a.m. according to the US time. I did a reboot of the virtual server. It worked. It takes a bit longer usually because you're not doing it from within Windows, so the command has to go from the website to Windows and everything has to be done. So it takes about maybe like 5 to 10 minutes. That reboot that we're doing right now is much faster. I'm still going to wait. I'm just going to wait a couple more minutes and then log in back into the server. Alright, so we've waited a couple of minutes. As you can see now, it's 9:41 p.m. In my local time, and what we're going to do now is going to log on to the server and see what happened there. So I'm just going to minimize these, Forex VPS. Alright, so don't worry about these messages. Usually they're not critical, but what you can see here is that this window usually is a good indication that the server has been rebooted. Now we want to find out, did we just log in when we launched that connection to the server, or did it actually auto log in prior to that? And we can check that very simply by looking at that file on drive C, and that's exactly what we're going to do. As you can see here, the Rebootlog file has been created, and server time right now is 12:42 p.m. and the file was modified at 12:33 p.m. So we're just going to open the file, and here you can see right away that the last reboot was at 12:33 p.m. and we logged onto the server at 12:41 p.m. So there you go. Right now it's 12:42 p.m. We logged on at 12:41, but the reboot happened at 12:33. That means that Windows logged on to the server automatically, and also that this reboot was documented properly. And that's perfect. That's exactly what we wanted to achieve in the previous tutorial and in today's tutorial. Now with those two things combined, we're slowly getting to a goal of getting Windows to reboot and the whole of our trading setup to restore itself. So our next step would be to make sure that the MetaTrader 4 terminals are automatically launched once the server has been rebooted, and then the next step after that would be to check the connection to the trading server in each of the MetaTrader 4 terminals. So we're nearly there. Next tutorial is going to be fun. We're going to be working with MetaTrader 4s again, and I look forward to seeing you then. Until next time, happy trading.